If I told you that a group of losers could only get 9 people to attend their rally in a country with more than 350 million people, would you think their ideology was any threat to the country whatsoever? If you're sane, you'll say no. Last Saturday, there was a KKK rally in Dayton, Ohio. But do you know who the biggest group of attendees were? Not the KKK. There were over 600 counter-protesters and 350 police officers in Dayton for the rally. But guess how many actual KKK members showed up to the event? A mere 9. That's right, 9. In fact, there is probably a good chance that there were more horses than there were actual KKK members. Meanwhile, there were hundreds of Antifa members and armed Black Panthers walking around with rifles at the low ready. And here's some footage from our good friend Fort Fisher, who was there with news to share.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
F-U-C! KKK! OFFN, go away! Go! Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power! Black power!
The police is out here protecting the KKK. The police on average kill around 1,000 citizens a year. Show me one time ISIS killed 1,000 Americans a year. Show me one time the Taliban killed 1,000 Americans a year. Tell me one time Al Qaeda killed 1,000 people a year. The police killed 1,000 people every year.
They're the government gang.
The paranoia over these 9 people cost the taxpayers in Dayton $650,000. And why is that? Because the media has an agenda to lump these people in with Trump supporters and conservatives. Therefore, they have to exaggerate the threat they pose to the country. The media wants you to think it's on the rise because they want to look for any reason to take down President Trump. But the truth is that it's never been weaker. When David Duke ran for US Senate in 1990, he was the leading Republican in the race and got 607,000 votes and 43% of the total vote. When he ran again in 1996, Duke received 11.5% of the vote in the Louisiana primary. 20 years later, Duke ran for US Senate again in 2016. He received almost 100,000 fewer votes than he did in 1996 and got a mere 3% in the primary. Even this guy got more votes than Duke. I've never heard of him before. Have you? If racism were really on the rise in this country, don't you think Duke's poll numbers would be too? He fared much better in the 1990 election than he did in 2016, before the age of the internet, where the media claims people are being radicalized into supporting his ideas. In fact, Twitter is now coming out and saying they're contemplating banning white supremacists from their platform altogether. Twitter's head of legal and public policy said, quote, "We're working with them specifically on white nationalism and white supremacy, and radicalization online and understanding of the drivers of those things. What role can a platform like Twitter play in either making that worse or making that better?" Heidi Barrick of the Southern Poverty Law Center thinks social media is radicalizing white supremacy, not because the ideology is spreading, but simply because David Duke and Richard Spencer are allowed on the platform. I'm not even kidding. She said, quote, "Twitter has David Duke on there. Twitter has Richard Spencer. They have some of the biggest ideologues of white supremacy and people whose ideas have inspired terrorist attacks on their site, and it's outrageous." She added that, quote, "There's no question that we already have that evidence to suggest that white supremacy is a problem on Twitter. But if you take one look at Duke or Spencer's Twitter profiles, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that they aren't very popular. Duke has 52,000 followers and Spencer has 75,000. And the two of them struggle to get any likes on their tweets. So why is the liberal media trying to hype up something so insignificant? Because it's not actually men like Duke and Spencer they're bothered by. It's people like you, and it's people like me. And they're not hiding it. Contained within this very article from Vice about Twitter contemplating banning white supremacists is a link to an article titled, "Twitter Won't Treat White Supremacy Like ISIS Because It'd Have to Ban Some GOP Politicians Too." What's funny is I can't name a single Republican politician linked to white supremacy. But I can think of a certain Democratic governor from Virginia who was wearing this in his yearbook photo. But I don't hear Vice or any other liberal outlets calling for Ralph Northam to be banned off social media. And that's because they don't actually care a thing about white supremacy. And they need us to be banned off social media because we're the ones calling them out on their lies, and we're the ones who support President Trump. It's why newspapers were falsely labeling me as this, and why the Bernie Sanders campaign called InfoWars a white supremacist platform, after I was kicked out of his town hall for no reason whatsoever.
So I'm being ejected from a public event?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
on the ground.
Yes, ma'am.
On the ground.
Because,
Did I
ma'am,
violate any rules or anything?
ma'am, this is an event that
Right.
we pay for.
Right.
This is an event that we have bought the space. I'm going to ask you one more time. If you are not, I'm going to have to turn it over to you.
Of course, it's also why the liberal media has been running with the same tired narrative for 4 years now that Trump is racist. They want their gullible followers to think he's way worse than he actually is, because trying to win fair and square against him is too difficult for the Democrats. The irony in all of this is that the only ones promoting white supremacy or the liberal media who keep giving it so much attention. They did way more to promote their message to the masses than the 9 losers who showed up in Dayton on Saturday. But because of the media's hysteria, 600 people went out to protest the world's saddest and smallest political rally, and taxpayers in Ohio, me, have to waste $600,000 because of it. I even had more people show up to my first open carry event on 3 weeks notice, and before I was a public figure with hundreds of thousands of followers. Yet these people could only get 9 when the whole country knew about it. That right there tells you everything you need to know, and is why you need to support us at InfoWarsStore.com to make sure we can keep exposing the liberal media for their lies and their conspiracy theories. If we can't get out the truth, then the lies will only continue to grow. Go to InfoWarsStore.com and get yourself a t-shirt and the best supplements to help us spread our message and help you start living a healthier life. InfoWarsStore.com. 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 Super Male Vitality, Alpha Force, Brain Power. You guys gotta get your boyfriends and your husbands, your fiancés, you gotta get them some Super Male Vitality, or else they're gonna end up like this.